Good noon to everyone tuning in today. This is Lauren Johnson, that's Lorten, and this is episode 3 of Hidden Killers. We're starting to get into the actually interesting content now, thank God. Now, on that note, the majority of Stevenson's kills were not able to be caught on camera, either because they took place outside, the buildings didn't have any cameras working or nearby, or because she was disguised enough for nobody to notice it was her. For example, Stephanie Taylor's, her 6th kill, was 24 years old when she died. She was unemployed and she lived alone, occasionally getting checks from her parents to support herself. Otherwise, she had little contact with them. They were fairly wealthy. Stephanie was one of the only victims of Stevenson's that was unemployed, and it took much longer for her to be reported missing because of the lack of contact with her parents. She had a decent collection of friends, but it seems that extended absences were normal for her, and nobody questioned it when she went missing in 2005. When her body was inevitably found near the border of Pennsylvania, she was also one of the only victims that hadn't been found in Ohio. It had already decayed a fair bit. Forensic analysis of her body revealed that there were little external wounds, but many internal. It's thought, for Stephanie specifically, that Stevenson had, in one way or another, forced her to ingest sulfuric acid. She had also clearly been denied food and water for a while as well, by the condition of her body. Her next victim, Mike Reynolds, was found in a similar state. Mike was a 35-year-old and worked at a small bookshop in her hometown. He went missing around the same time as Stevenson's other male victims, between June 10th to 15th, and his body was found in a ditch on June 21st. He lived with his roommate, Grace Smith, who we'll be interviewing after this. He also had little to no contact with his relatives, and nobody had noticed he went missing until his body was found. The exact same thing happened with Stephanie, and it seems to almost be a strategy of Stevenson's. It's speculated that she had stolen a bit from Stephanie, but Mike Reynolds was fairly broke, and there wasn't much to be gained from stealing from him. Stephanie's house had seemed pretty empty when the police had searched it after her death, but she could just be a minimalist. It's not really confirmed whether or not Stevenson ever killed in order to gain material riches. But before we get into our interview section, a message from our sponsor. Are you sick of trying to move furniture all by yourself? Do you hate loading boxes into the back of a truck? Well, then this is for you. This episode is sponsored by Moving Pain Free, a cheap moving company made to make moving, as least painful as possible. Make sure to check them out, even if just briefly. Thank you for joining us today, Grace.
Yeah, this should be quick, right? I'm a little busy.
Yeah, of course. Super quick. First, I want to ask you how you knew Mike.
We were roommates when he died, I think. I mean, I didn't really know him or, care about him. I really don't know why you're interviewing me, actually.
Well, it's because you were the only person we could find. But surely you know a little, right? How did he decorate his portion of the room? You must have noticed his sleeping habits and whatnot as well.
It was super bland. He didn't have much taste. Literally all he had was, a desk with a picture of his ugly cat. I was actually kind of glad when he died, because it meant I don't have to take care of her anymore.
He had a cat? What was her name?
I don't fucking know, man. He just called her stupid, affectionately probably. but I never heard her actual name.
Huh. You said you were aware that he went missing then? So why did it take you so long for it to be reported?
Well, I never sent anything in about it. I just figured he was going to like visit family or something and he had forgotten to tell me, so I just didn't report it. I mean, I gave like a brief statement when they were doing their investigation shit, but other than that,
How long was he not in the apartment then?
like 10 days or something. That's why I thought he was visiting somebody, because he wasn't gone for that long.
And you didn't find anything strange about that?
He literally just said, okay, no. Because he did that a lot. Like, he'd just leave for no reason and show up again a week later. How was I supposed to know this time was different?
I mean, I'd be a little more worried if I was you, but anyway. He was supposedly at his work when he was missing, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah, I guess. I was at work too, so I assume he was. I didn't know his schedule though.
Do you remember where he worked?
The old bookstore with like super shitty security. I've stolen like 30 CDs from that place alone. It's a miracle it's still open, honestly. I think it was called like, yeah, I don't know.
You think that made it easier for him to be abducted the way he was?
Yeah, probably. I think any of the cameras in there are just for show. They've got the recording in progress signs everywhere, but somehow never see me taking shit in broad daylight, so definitely.
The place wasn't in a city or anything either, right?
The outskirts of town, maybe, but nowhere like super populated. It's not like anyone would see what was happening.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Whatever the hell do I need to elaborate on? It was on a dead-end street with literally nobody besides like 6 people went there.
Never mind then. That's all they'll need from you.
Good.
Well, then, that gives us all the information we need. Thank you again for joining us. Stevenson liked to keep to locations like this that were in secluded areas with little security and even less witnesses. For example, her 8th victim, Sarah Green, worked at a convenience store that was, frankly, out in the middle of nowhere. According to one of her coworkers, they had gone to take their break for the day, and when they came back, Sarah wasn't there. They had attempted to call her several times, and she had only picked up once, with the other side of the call being on mute. Her coworkers had put off calling the police to handle the situation until they had, apparently, realized that Sarah's car hadn't moved an inch since she went missing for the day. When they finally did call 911, a search was started up pretty fast. But it wasn't until a week later that they had found her body shoved in a dumpster behind the store. The assumption is that Stevenson had knocked her out or killed her in the store and taken her to her usual storage area before depositing her body there afterwards. Seeing as the police had already thoroughly searched the store and its surroundings, similar to Mike Reynolds' case, the store had pretty crappy cameras that didn't pick up much of anything. At this point in her career, it seemed like Stevenson was becoming much more strategic with who she killed, where they worked, and how to make sure it went unnoticed for long enough. However, Kyle Bannister, her 9th victim total, was a banker and had been seen very clearly in public with Stevenson before he went missing. He had a stable job, made good money, worked in a place with high security, and had multiple close relationships. It seems that it's always one of her male victims that breaks her patterns. And it's hard to tell if it was meant to throw the police off her case, or if all of these patterns are just speculation. The latter could very well be true, though I doubt it is, with how intelligent she was. Kyle was also one of the victims whose body was only found far after it had been disposed of, deep in the woods. He appeared to have been dead for 2 to 4 months before it had been found, And even then, it was only because a camper had found it while looking for firewood way off of the suggested paths or trails. The strange thing is, he was never reported missing by his friends or family. Based on text found in the phone, he had somebody, assumedly Stevenson, had told them that he was cutting contact and to not worry about him. It's only assumed that these texts were fake because of the time they were sent at, after Kyle had stopped showing up to his work, and only after his family had started to ask about where he was. That is all we have for today, though. Next episode, we'll be covering her final victims, and maybe briefly going into the court proceedings and how those went down. Please remember to like and subscribe. There are only 2 more episodes left of this series in particular, so be sure to tune in and have a great rest of your day.